Hey guys, what's up? lightboltjoe here. Today we're going to discuss the 2002 horror film Cabin Fever, written and directed by Eli Roth, starring Ryder Strong and some other people whose names I don't actually remember. The movie was remade in 2016. Eli Roth did the screenplay. Eli Roth also did the Hostel trilogy. Those are creepy movies. I can't really watch those movies. They're very creepy. Cabin Fever has a bunch of different films to it as well. It's a movie. I'm not a big fan of it. I appreciate it for what it is. It is one of the films that changed the horror genre, so I give it a lot of credit for that. Before what? Like no. I mean, what I'm trying to say, like, horror movies used to just be horror movies without without teenagers having sex in it. And then horror movies had to be a horror movie with teenagers having sex in it. And then 2002's Cabin Fever is a good example of that. It's this group of college kids goes to a cabin, and most of them are couples, most of them are not couples, who's hooking up with who's having sex where. The concept of the film, though, is that there's a flesh-eating virus that's going around the woods, and once you're infected, you can give it to somebody else, and your flesh is eaten, and it's gross. It's disgusting. It's a good concept. But as horror movies have gone on, we've seen less and less teenagers needing to have sex, in order to be a horror movie. Like, dare I say this, but Hellfest, right? We didn't really have teenagers having sex to be a horror movie. I still didn't like the movie, but it's still a horror movie. Truth or Dare, I don't really remember. This past February's Truth or Dare, I don't remember anyone having sex in that movie. Did anyone have sex? I don't remember. Then the new Halloween movie that just came out, I don't really remember teenagers having sex in that movie. I know they were talking about it. Or did they? They were about to. The genre's changed. That's my point. 2002's Cabin Fever is peak horror genre when it comes to what's to be expected in a horror movie. Group of kids goes to an abandoned place, something happens, blood everywhere, kids are having sex, tragedy, right? Cabin in the Woods, which was in 2012, is another example of kids going to a cabin, but that had a very weird twist, and I actually don't like that movie, and it's gotten a 90-something on Rotten Tomatoes, and I still don't understand it, but whatever. We'll talk about that at a later time, because I don't like that movie. Tucker and Dale vs. Evil, 2010. That's another Cabin in the Woods movie, but that's hysterical. That's hysterical horror. It's a horror comedy film, which I feel like we've talked about that. I gotta go through my list. I got a list of the things I've talked about. Gotta go through that list. But Cabin in the Woods, Cabin Fever, written and directed by Eli Roth, 2002 version, was good for what it is. There were a lot of jump scares. There was, a good concept that it was localized within this one little village, town, or whatever. Don't really discuss the origins of it, but alludes to the virus being transferred to other people because there's a body that's contaminated now in the river. Ryder Strong did a great job transitioning from, Boy Meets World stuff into other media aside from, rom-com TV series. It's a movie. Is it memorable? Not really. It's good for what it is. Is it one of my favorites? Absolutely not. But I give Eli Roth a lot of credit because the whole franchise was based off of that one thing. And then that movie gave Eli Roth the push to the Hostel movies, which are disturbing. I get that. Those movies are disturbing. Eli Roth knows his horror. He knows how to do scares. He knows how to do gore. He knows how to do the genre. I give him a lot of credit. And there's a show on AMC right now. I think it's AMC. Eli Roth's History of Horror or something like that. Does a great job hosting and talking to directors and producers and creative interests, from the genres throughout the decades that horror's been a thing. Eli Roth's cool. Eli Roth is a pretty cool dude from the interviews I've gathered. I will probably see the 2016 Cabin in the Woods at some point. Not anytime soon, but at some point. I watched it recently because of the Halloween season. Gonna to catch up on my horror. Have you seen 2002's Cabin in the Woods? Not Cabin in the Woods, Cabin Fever. My God, there's too many cabin movies. Too many. Like Last House on the Left. Well, that's a house, but it's still cabin feel because it's a woodsy thing. I needed a new horror movie. The Night Before. That was a great horror movie. Oh, no, not Night Before. Better Watch Out. The Night Before. Isn't that the Seth Rogen comedy film with Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Anthony McCavity? I can't say his name. Falcon in the Marvel movies. Better Watch Out. That was the movie I'm thinking of. With Dacre Montgomery. Dacre Montgomery. Love him. That was the movie, the Christmas movie where you think that the kids are in trouble because there's a home invasion, but things happen. We'll talk about that. I don't think we talked about that yet. 'Tis the season coming up to talk about Better Watch Out. Because that is a movie that you see the trailer and the movie has nothing to do with the trailer and it's the complete opposite of what you're expecting, and that was what was cool about it. Which I guess I'll give credit to Cabin in the Woods, because if you watch the trailer for Cabin in the Woods and you don't expect what's to happen in the movie, and then the twist happens and you're like, oh, that wasn't in the trailer, and that's the point. You're supposed to get a glimpse. Like with all these Wreck-It Ralph 2, Ralph Breaks the Internet trailers, right? You already know what the movie is. Because of every trailer that's been out, there's always been a new scene, right? So we have a good 20 minutes of the movie already for the hour and 45 minutes that the movie is actually going to be, whatever their time is. But we already know the plot. But that's okay, because it's a Disney movie, and it's going to be perfect because it's a Disney movie within a Disney movie talking about Disney movies. Fourth wall breaking all around. Deadpool would be very proud right now. And we got to talk about Once Upon a Deadpool next month, the PG-13 version of Deadpool 2. It's going to be hysterical. And interesting at the same time. I'm very curious. That's really it. I know I just went off on a little bit of tangent because we have things to talk about coming up. But what did you think of Cabin Fever, the 2002 film Cabin Fever, written and directed by Eli Roth, the horror classic that it is? I give it the credit it deserves. I don't have anything bad to say about it. It was not a boring movie. It's just not my favorite. That's it. What do you guys think? Join the conversation down below. Mucho mahalo, guys.